I took this footage of my partner and I boarding a flight to Munich, Germany last minute to cross off a bucket list item, going to Oktoberfest. I just didn't know we'd soon be in a pandemic, and that could be the last Oktoberfest of its kind. This is footage from that trip. Our first beer in Munich.
There's like 6-pack.
What are you eating?
Sauerkraut with bacon, and it's hot.
So at Oktoberfest, there's basically a bunch of beer tents, but tents isn't the right word. They're like huge buildings they build every year for these big beer halls. And by law, they have to have so many seats open to the public. So even though we didn't have reservations, as long as we got there early in the morning and got in line and then ran to a beer tent, we could maybe get a seat. And having a seat is important because that's the only way you can order beer. So we only got a few hours of sleep, got up at 5 a.m. to get to the gates by 6 a.m. And we were one of the first people in line, and we waited in line until 9 a.m. when the gates opened, and it was a basically running of the bulls, and this is what you're about to see. It's worth noting that this is so ridiculous that the people who actually work at Oktoberfest stop what they're doing in the morning and come out and film all these people running. Yeah, we got a ways to go. So there's several different beer tents at Oktoberfest. Each one is known for a different thing, and we chose the Hacker tent because it was more of a local German tent, whereas some of the others might be more touristy. And if you go to that tent, you drink their beer. That kind of goes without saying, but if you're not familiar with it, that's what happens. And then we get here and it's like, why did we run? This place is totally empty. We're totally fine. We were so worried. We flew all the way to Germany and we weren't going to have a seat. And we get the first pick of anyone of all the seats. So we chose close to the band, but not so close that we couldn't hear ourselves think later. And this tent is known for these murals, the Hacker tent. There's these beautiful murals, and they build this whole thing every year and tear it back down after Oktoberfest. This is just a temporary structure for Oktoberfest. It's pretty amazing. So everybody was very stoked that they got a seat because everyone you see did not have a ticket. All the ticket holders come later. But even though we were one of the first people in, the whole place filled up in about 5 minutes. So you can see almost everybody's dressed up in traditional gear. And one of the other traditions they do in these beer halls is stand on the table. And if you stand on the table, then you have to finish your beer. And that's happening in the background right there. But if you don't finish it, you get booed. So having started drinking at 9 a.m., we kind of had our fill by about noon. So you can see it's pretty packed outside, people waiting for people to leave the seats that we had so that they can try to get into the beer tents to order beer and have a good time. So we set out into the crowd, which is basically like what in the United States would be like a county fair. So there's rides and food and different stuff out here. But it was fun, but yeah, we had to be a bit responsible and stop drinking after a few hours, especially when the beers are so massive. So anyone telling you that the German people aren't friendly has not spent any time at Oktoberfest. We were ending our day at this beer hall when it was time to give up our table for the reservation, and that group of friends just asked us to stay and join them. And shared some tobacco snuff, which I'd never done before, and we had a good time. So the next day we recovered. It was a Sunday, and it's worth noting in Germany on Sunday everything is closed pretty much, except for a few shops. So I hope you're able to enjoy Oktoberfest sometime in the future the way we were able to enjoy it in 2019.